So what are the various impurities that are present in water that we are going to discuss in this video? Now, before starting, in the previous video, just revise what was the main concept. That is, from any reservoir, the water we take is called as a raw water. Okay. Then that raw water is first tested, like what are the impurities which are present in it. Then after testing, it is sent to the water treatment plant. Now, in this water treatment plant, what happens? The impurities are thrown out from the raw water. Okay, so the raw water contains wholesome water and impurities, so these impurities are taken out from this water treatment plant. Now after this treatment of water, it is again tested, and then the final water that we get is called as wholesome water, and we have seen the definitions of both impurities and wholesome water here. Okay, now, so whatever the impurities are there, that impurities are also classified based on the states of matter, or based on the size of impurities, or based on the nature of impurities. So that we are going to discuss in this lecture. Before that, just write down this statement that we have discussed in the previous video. So the water quality is tested once before, is tested once before treatment. treatment So why it is tested? To find out, to find the extent of impurities, to find out the extent of impurities present in present in raw water, present in raw water. So we have seen that the first testing is done on the raw water, and this is done to estimate what are the amount of impurities that are present in raw water. Okay, now, based on the based on this extent, okay, based on this extent, treatment is treatment is given to the water. Okay, so again after treatment, again after treatment, testing of water is done. Testing of water is done to find out, to find out whether the water meets, whether the water meets the stated standards. Okay, now what are these standards called as? These standards are called as drinking water standards. Okay, now we are going to see the various types of impurities. So the first categories are classification based on, classification based on size of impurities. Classification based on size of impurities. So it is based on size. Now based on size, it is classified into three categories. So the first one is called as suspended impurities. Suspended impurities. The second one is called as, the second one is called as colloidal impurities. And the third one is dissolved impurities. Okay, so based on the size of impurities, it is classified into these categories. Now the next classification is based on nature of impurity. Based on nature of impurities. So based on nature, it is classified, based on nature, it is classified into two types. The first one is organic. impurity, and the second one is called as inorganic impurity. Inorganic impurities. Okay, now these organic impurities, okay, these organic impurities, these are dangerous. Okay, these are dangerous, whereas these inorganic impurities, these are not dangerous. These are not dangerous except human induced inorganic impurities. Now just remember that whatever the organic impurities are there that are dangerous to human health and inorganic are not dangerous. Among inorganic, the only dangerous inorganics are what are induced by the human. Okay, what is the meaning of this? Whatever the excreta or whatever the human waste is there, so from that human waste, the inorganic impurities which are present in that, they are only dangerous to human health. Rest all inorganic impurities are not dangerous. Now the last classification is the most important, and it is based on the states of matter. The state of matter, and here we call it as based on the state of impurity. So here it is classified into three categories. So first one is physical, okay, so we'll name it only physical. Then second one is chemical, and the third one is biological. So among physical, what are the properties, what are the impurities that are present? The first one that comes is temperature. The next one is color, then turbidity, then odor and taste. Okay, now among chemical, the list is long, but this we have to study because each of these is very important. So there is solid, pH, acidity, alkalinity, hardness, chlorides, sulfates, dissolved oxygen. So this in short form we'll call it as DO. Then fluorides, nitrogen compounds, iron and manganese, and the remaining ones will name it under other toxic substances. Okay, so this all comes under the chemical. Now what about biological? So in this we have to study what is BOD, what is COD. Okay, so this BOD full form is biological oxygen demand. Okay, so these we are going to study in detail. So right now we'll just write the names. Then we have to study the three tests here to identify the BOD and COD. So there is E. coli test, then MPN test, and membrane filter technique. Membrane filter technique. Okay, so these are the various properties that we have to study of water. In detail, we have to study each and every one, like what is the effect of temperature on water, Then what should be the ideal temperature of water? Similarly, what should be the color of water? Is there anything to measure the color? Is there anything to measure the odor? What is the scale to measure the taste? What do you mean by turbidity, etc. Okay, so there will be each video now on one of these topics. There will one video on each of the topics, and it is very important. Okay, so the whole chapter of quality of water, it only revolves around these impurities. So basically what we have to do, we have to study all these impurities and what should be the acceptable limit. If we just take an example of this pH, so what do you mean by pH, how to calculate the pH of water, and what should be the ideal range of pH in drinking water. If you are drinking some water, then what should be the ideal range of pH? Let's say it is 6.5 to 7.5. So this is called as the standards or drinking water standards. Okay, this we have seen here, right? We have written here drinking water standards. So this 6.5 to 7.5 is nothing but the drinking water standard. Similarly, there is a standard for each and everything like hardness, chloride, sulfates. So that we have to study in detail. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now from the next video, we will start from the classification based on the size of impurities. So these are all the classifications. Okay, I'm writing it here. The next topic is classification of impurities. Classification of impurities. Now there are classification based on size, based on nature, and based on the state.